What if I told you the most connected generation in history is also the most anxious? That the same phones that gave them a voice quietly shaped how they see themselves. Gen Z grew up online, not just using the internet, living in it, breathing in a world of notifications, stories, trends, algorithms. Their childhood memories aren't just in photo albums. They're in archives, cloud backups, digital footprints that never really disappear. And here's the paradox. They value authenticity more than any generation before them, but they grew up performing. And what almost nobody talks about is the psychological cost of that performance. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand something deeper, not just about Gen Z, but about your own brain in the age of constant connectivity. Imagine this. You're 13 years old, you post a photo. Within seconds, the likes start coming in, your heart jumps a little, a tiny hit of excitement, then you check again and again and again. Now imagine growing up with that feedback loop every single day. Gen Z are digital natives. Their brains developed alongside smartphones and social media. According to research published in journals like JAMA Psychiatry and Studies from 2019 onward, adolescent brains are especially sensitive to social reward. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for identity and decision-making, is still developing into the mid-20s. So when validation becomes quantified, likes, views, shares, it doesn't just feel good. It wires identity to external feedback. And that's where it gets complicated. Because Gen Z doesn't just want approval, they want authenticity. They care deeply about mental health. They talk openly about therapy. They challenge toxic norms. They question systems. They value diversity and self-expression in ways older generations often struggle to understand. But at the same time, they scroll through highlight reels all day. Comparison culture isn't new. Psychologist Leon Festinger talked about social comparison theory decades ago, the idea that we evaluate ourselves by comparing to others. But what he never imagined was a world where you could compare yourself to thousands of curated lives before breakfast. Picture this, it's 11 p.m., you're lying in bed. You tell yourself you'll just scroll for 5 minutes. Suddenly it's 1 a.m., you've seen vacation bodies, six-figure businesses at 22, flawless skin routines, perfect relationships. You close the app, and there's this quiet feeling. I'm behind. Have you ever felt that? Be honest. Comment yes if you've caught yourself comparing your real life to someone's filtered one. But here's the twist. Gen Z knows it's fake. They know photos are edited. They know influencers stage their lives. They know algorithms push extremes. And yet the body still reacts, because the emotional brain doesn't care about logic. It cares about threat, and comparison feels like threat. Threat to belonging, threat to status, threat to identity. That's why anxiety rates have climbed among young adults in the past decade, not because they're weaker, but because they are overstimulated. Their nervous systems rarely get silence. Notifications, messages, news alerts, trends, outrage cycles, viral drama, constant connectivity means constant input, and the brain was never designed for that much social information. But that's only half the story, because there's something incredibly powerful about Gen Z's psychology too. They are hyper-aware. They can name their emotions. They understand terms like gaslighting, boundaries, attachment styles. Conversations that were once whispered are now mainstream. In many ways, they are emotionally literate, but emotional awareness without regulation can feel overwhelming. Imagine being able to identify every feeling, but not knowing how to calm it. That's the silent struggle. Identity for Gen Z is fluid and expressive. They curate playlists that reflect their mood. They experiment with aesthetics. They explore gender, career paths, and belief systems openly. Self-expression isn't just fun. It's survival. Because when you grow up in a world that sees everything, you learn to define yourself before others do. But here's the open loop I promised earlier. What's the hidden psychological shift happening beneath all of this? It's this. Gen Z isn't obsessed with attention, they're obsessed with meaning. Think about it. They don't just want a job, they want purpose. They don't just want relationships, they want emotional depth. They don't just want content, they want relatability. That's why authenticity is such a powerful currency. But authenticity becomes confusing when your identity is shaped in public. Imagine filming yourself crying, sharing your struggles, posting vulnerable thoughts. Is that healing, or is it performance? Sometimes it's both, and that duality creates tension. Strong but fragile. Confident online, anxious offline, connected globally, lonely locally. Have you noticed that some of the most socially active people online feel isolated in real life? Type in the comments where you're watching from and your age. I want to see how many Gen Z voices are here. Now let's talk about overstimulation. The average Gen Z user switches between apps dozens of times per hour. Short-form content has trained attention spans to expect novelty every few seconds. Dopamine spikes, micro-rewards, endless scroll. But when real life moves slower, it can feel boring, and boredom now feels uncomfortable. But boredom used to be where creativity lived. This isn't about blaming technology, it's about understanding adaptation. The brain adapts to whatever environment it grows in. If your environment is fast, loud, and competitive, your nervous system stays alert. That alertness can look like ambition, but it can also look like anxiety. And here's a powerful insight. Gen Z's anxiety isn't just fear, it's hyper-awareness without pause. They see climate change headlines, economic instability, social injustice, global conflict, all in real time. Previous generations experienced crises. Gen Z experiences crises live-streamed, and yet, despite all this, they continue to create. They build communities online, they support small creators, they normalize therapy, they call out toxic behaviors, they push conversations forward. Resilience looks different for them. It's not silent endurance, it's vocal honesty. But here's the psychological secret hidden in their daily decisions. Every post, every like, every scroll is a micro-choice about identity. What kind of person am I? What do I align with? What do I stand for? When identity is constantly edited, it can feel unstable, but it also means they are deeply reflective. Now imagine this cinematic scene, a young adult sitting in a dimly lit room, phone screen glowing, notifications buzzing, they pause, they turn it off. Silence. In that silence, there's discomfort. But there's also clarity, because beneath all the noise, Gen Z still wants what every human wants: to belong, to be seen, to matter. The difference is their stage is global. So what's the takeaway? Gen Z isn't fragile, they are navigating an unprecedented psychological environment. They value authenticity because they've seen performance. They talk about mental health because they've felt its weight. They struggle with comparison because comparison is infinite, but they also possess something powerful: adaptability. They are learning in real time how to balance connection with boundaries. And maybe the real growth for Gen Z isn't deleting social media. It's mastering it, choosing when to engage, choosing when to log off, choosing identity from within, not from feedback. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for your phone? Think about that. Because the biggest rebellion in a hyper-connected world might be stillness. If this video made you see Gen Z differently or made you understand yourself more deeply, let me know in the comments. What part hit you the hardest? And if you want more psychology explained in a way that actually feels human, like this video, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Because we're not just talking about generations, we're talking about evolution. Gen Z grew up in a digital ocean, always of information crashing every second. Some learn to surf. Some feel like they're drowning, but all of them are adapting. And maybe, just maybe, they're not lost. They're just the first generation learning how to build an identity while the whole world watches. And that changes everything.